All right, and here's hopefully the third and final segment of the periodic table that we were talking about in this first video lessons. The last part we ended up with was this objective where we're trying to look at what trends are in the periodic table. And we want to look at four things: atomic size, we want to look at ionic size, electronegativity, and ionization energies. First one, and visually you can easily see that atomic size as you go top to bottom on the periodic table tends to get bigger. And the reason, what we look at is why do they get bigger, is because they have an extra energy level. Hydrogen only has one energy level, lithium has two, sodium three, and so on as you go down. So obviously it makes sense that they would get bigger. Plus they all have greater atomic numbers, so they have more protons, more neutrons. Now, if we look at an ion, what's going to happen when they lose or gain an electron? In this case, all the metals are going to lose an electron, but the size is still, the trend is still the same. They're still going to go bigger they're going to get bigger as you go top to bottom. Now, if we look back at that size as you go left to right across the period, I think you notice that they're going to get smaller. That's because they end up staying in the same energy level. But as you increase more nuclear charge, that's more positive protons and more negative electrons, which actually squeeze it in a little bit tighter. As you go from left to right, the more protons and the more electrons, the more nuclear force that's going to cause that to contract and be closer together. So atomic size actually gets smaller as you go left to right, which is a little bit different because you're having more protons and more electrons, more stuff that's in it, yet it's getting smaller because it's being squeezed tighter together. And if you notice, the ion trends are the same too. Now, these are cations because they're positively charged, but look at the size. It gets smaller. Here's our anions. Now, I know they're in the same period, but depending on if they're gaining or losing electrons, the trend is still the same. As you go left to right, the cations get smaller, and your anions also get smaller. So atomic size, as you can see, gets bigger as I go down and gets bigger as I go right to left on the periodic table. The last two things we want to talk about is ionization energies and electronegativities. Ionization energy is the amount of energy required to steal an electron from an atom. Now, as the trend as you go top to bottom, ionization energies actually get smaller. They decrease. And that's because they're farther away from the nucleus. So it's easier to steal an electron the farther you get away from the nucleus itself. In periods, as I go left to right, they're going to actually increase because I have more things. And again, more nuclear charge. So it tends to be the exact opposite trend from what you find in the sizes. As you go top to bottom, it gets bigger, left to right, top to bottom. As you go, electronegativities would go the same way. As I go top to bottom, gets smaller, left to right gets bigger. And that ends up being your trends as you go. Now, you got a full summary of the chart of trends also in the PowerPoint that I included. The full PowerPoint is there, so all this stuff will be on there. Any questions, like I said, email me at mark.boer@addisonschools.us.